This is Wei Zhao, and I'm going to be your instructor for today. Hey, I am Wei Zhao. Right now, I am currently the Liege of Essence, and I'll be quickly going over a few of the classes, what kind of playstyle each class is. Everything I do say, however, take with a grain of salt. I'm a pretty experienced player, but everything is based off of my experience and how I would play the class or how I've seen people play the class. Just for your own retrospect, I am over player level 1000, so I do have quite of the experience under my belt. So the first class at the top is a short sword and shield here. When you're playing this class, you're mainly a tank, a support, and a CC type of person. So when you're starting to pick up this class, your first mindset is, okay, how do I want to be in the front lines and cause as much CC as much as possible? You're consistently playing with your Ironside's ability, and essentially this, for a short period of time, will increase your defense by 125%. And that number, that percentage, that is that is very, very strong. However, as you can see with the second effect, after 8 seconds, when the first effect is done, your defense is actually reduced by 15% for 4 seconds. So your front lines, you're in there, you pop iron sides, you do what you need to do, you apply as much CC as possible, and then you essentially want to try to get back and recover, because at that point your team should be there and your team should be assisting you. So with the iron sides, as soon as you get in, you're really playing around the Thunderstruck ult. As you can see with the video playing, you're essentially charging forward and then doing a body slam, and that knocks down any enemy units, enemy heroes around you. There is a second ult, Centurion's Battle Drill, but if I'm being honest, nobody really uses it. As with Short Sword, your main goal, your main focus is to cause CC, and this ultimate just doesn't do enough CC. Um, with Short Sword, there is a support build now with the whole new rune system in play. With your Iron Sides is a rune where you could deal, or where it has reduced defenses bonus, but allies around you actually gain a small Iron Sides bonus. So your defenses is increased by a lower amount, but allies around you will gain more defense. So there's a lot of ways you can play with Short Sword. So after you're mainly using your Iron Sides and your ultimate Thunderstruck, the two other abilities that I'd like to use is Shielded Charge and Throw Shield. Now Throw Shield is a very good skill for you because enemies that you hit, it increases your movement speed by 15 seconds for 5 seconds, as you can see with the first effect. And the second effect is it reduces the speed of struck enemies by 50%. Now, a very interesting with Throw Shield is it actually synergizes with your ultimate well. As you can see with the video playing with your ultimate, your player is actually charging forward. But if you hit an enemy with your Throw Shield first, you actually move faster due to that first effect of Throw Shield. So essentially, you could you're moving a lot faster with Thunderstruck, because when you're actually using your Thunderstruck, although you are charging forward, you're moving at a slightly slower pace than usual compared to someone who's just sprinting away. Now, Shielded Charge is the third skill that I like to use because it's just, again, another CC. With Short Sword, you're consistently wanting to apply CC. You have your ultimate for a knockdown, you have Shielded Charge for second knockdown, and then you have Throw Shield that slows people down, and obviously Iron Sides that keep you alive. Now, one thing I do want to note though, if the enemy is blocking, when you charge forward, you are not going to knock them down unless you kind of swoop around and hit them to the side with your Shielded Charge. Now, the other skills here is Shielded Bash and Barricade. The main reason why I'm not using these two skills and also kick is just because although you could see that it does some CC effect, for example, this has a 12-second cooldown and throw shield has an 8-second cooldown. Shielded charge has a 20-second cooldown, so you could argue that shielded charge is a longer cooldown, but you could see how kick doesn't knock them down right away. And essentially, people could just run away as soon as they see your kick. They could stop you while you're doing your mid animation because it's your third hit that'll knock them down. So anyone could stop you during kick. Shield bash is used by some people. However, again, you're not really applying CC when you're using the skill. You're becoming more of a skirmisher, and that's not really what you want to do with a short sword, especially in sieges or in territory war. You just want to apply your CC, deal damage if you can, and then just roll back out. With the barricade, it's the same prospect. You're just not doing CC. As you can see, you're just doing 2 strong hits, and it removes dazed effect. But again, no CC. So for the short sword and shield, the main attributes that I would want to use is full strength. Although you want to be tanky and you want to go in and deal a lot of CC, you're essentially going in with iron sides. And iron sides already increases your defense by 125%. So if you put some points into armor, you're essentially just being more tanky when you don't really need to be. If you're planning on skirmishing without iron sides, then maybe you want to put points into armor. But mainly you just want to go full strength to output the most amount of damage with your CC while still being alive due to your iron sides. Second weapon is the Glaive. Same thing, you have 2 ultimates, you have Hail of Blades, and you have Flying Reaper. So the main ult that everyone uses, or at least the majority of people uses, is Flying Reaper. The main reason for that is because of the amount of burst damage that you could do. So with the Glaive, you really want to focus on burst damage and chaining your combos. Your combos that you're trying to chain aren't as difficult as other classes, but it's very rewarding. For example, one of the other things that you also want to use is Warlord's Greeting. As you can see, it strikes twice and deals damage, but the main thing that you want to focus on is it concusses your enemy for 2 seconds. So your main combo is Warlord's Greeting, and as they're stunned, you're using Flying Reaper. And they're concussed for a long enough time where you could go through your Flying Reaper animation and then they get CC'd and knocked down for a second time. And this time, since you're using your ult, you do substantially a lot more damage. And another skill that I would use on top of those two is Breaker of Shields. As you can see, after the first hit, it reduces the enemy's block. And pressing twice, whichever keybind you have it in, will deal 69% of your slashing damage. And this is after the reduced enemy's block. So, for example, you use Warlord's Greeting, you use your ult, they're still knocked down. You can just walk up to them, use Breaker of Shields, apply another damage. Or if you want to be very risky, you could use Breaker of Shields to reduce enemy's block and then follow in your Warlord's Greeting to your Flying Reaper combo. Now, the fourth skill that you could have equipped is very interchangeable. A lot of people use Arc of Steel just because of the amount of damage output that you could apply. But some people like to use Heat of Battle to keep you alive, or Charge. Charge is a good skill not only to charge forward, but you could use this defensively. As I said, you want to deal a lot of burst damage, so some people like to do their Warlord's Greeting to Flying Reaper combo and just use their charge just to go back out, or just to go back to your allies. Just go in, deal your CC, deal your burst damage, and then wait for your cooldowns. The other skill is God of Battles. This is again a more of supportive type of skill. So it'll increase your attack power and allied units by 15%. So if your team is preparing for a charge and you notice that, you could use God of Battles to increase attack for 10 seconds. And usually that'll run for a good enough time. Or if you're running with range units like Pavis, you could use God of Battles to them. The attributes I would use for Glaive is full strength. Now, with this weapon, you could kind of do a mix of armor and strength. The main reason why personally I use full strength is I like the glass cannon build, where I strictly focus on the Warlord's Greeting and Flying Reaper combo with Breaker of Shields. I like to deal that heavy output of damage and then hopefully escape. Maybe I use charge to escape or just sprint out if I'm lucky. There's a mix where you could do half-half of armor and strength, or you could just go full strength and deal your damage. And there's always those in betweens for glaive mains where you could find that perfect set between armor and strength that'll match your playstyle. For example, if you don't like to be more risky, then put more points into armor. You want to do what specifically helps your playstyle. The next weapon that we'll be going over is the PoleAxe. And essentially, this is a heavy armor weapon that excels in CC. So with your ultimate, you have Rough Justice and this Strike ultimate. The Strike ultimate does not really get a lot of light just because you could see with Rough Justice, you're essentially pinning them down and keeping an enemy into an animation. And a lot of people like to do an animation cancel for those Polax mains where as soon as you hit your enemy, you could actually roll forward or to the side to cancel your animation. So as you can see, you inflict 317% of your base slashing damage plus a set of 6,500 of slashing damage. Now, although that is strong, there's a combo where if you use Rough Justice, cancel your animation, the enemy is still knocked down, and that allows you to use this skill while you're behind them. So you roll forward, the enemy is knocked down, you're essentially at the back of your enemy, and you're dealing backslash damage. While this skill specifically deals a lot more than your ultimate if you could land all three. And an extra effect with this skill is their defense will drop a substantial amount, rewarding you if you are able to hit each third skill. And the defense drop lasts 5 seconds. So while they're knocked down, you use this, you reduce their defense for free since they can't do anything. And that'll allow you to use other skills. The two main skills that I see a lot of people use is bill hook and pushback. Essentially, they both CC an enemy. The main difference is bill hook does not remove daze, whereas pushback does. So what you want to be careful of is the timing with pushback and old bill hook. So essentially the main combo that people use is Rough Justice, animation cancel to your slashing damage, and then bill hook to knock them down again, and then pushback to knock them down a third time or to CC them a third time. So you're essentially punishing players for a long time, whereas hopefully you have allies around you to also deal damage. Now the other skills, Weapon Dance, Halberdier's Thrust, and Grim Harvest, does not usually get used just because the main four skills that I talked about synergize as well with each other. If you're looking to swap one of the skills, usually I would swap this slashing damage ability for Grim Harvest. That's what a lot of people use. Weapon Dance and Halberdier's Thrust just doesn't do enough. If you're looking for more of a support build, people use Weapon Dance, but at that point, you're not really using PoleAxe to its full potential. Same thing with Halberdier's Thrust. It's a damaging ability, but why use this ability when you could do this slashing damage ability, which will reduce the enemy defense? For attributes, I've seen a lot of players do full armor, but for Polax mains, I've seen people find a mix of strength and armor that fits their playstyle, where if they want to be a little bit more risky, they'll play with a little bit more strength to punish more people by dealing more damage while they're knocked down with rough justice, or even not using rough justice. If you're able to land a bill hook or your pushback, they're knocked down or CC'd, and you could still deal a lot of damage while they can't punish you back. For the longsword and shield, you're essentially playing as a straight up frontline tank. There's a lot of good runes with longsword and shield that can synergize well with your whole build. So right away, right off the bat, you want to just run full armor. A lot of people run full strength or do a half-half just because they want to deal an insane amount of damage. But for longsword and shield, you're essentially just playing as a tank. If you're wanting to deal damage, then I guess you can as longsword and shield, but that's not technically your full role. So you have two ultimates, Sally Forth and Clash of Shields. These two are very interchangeable. I've seen both a lot of times. If you're doing a full tank build, Clash of Shields is your move. If you're doing a support build, Clash of Shields is your move. If you want to deal more damage, put a little points of strength, then Sally Forth is your move. The main reason why Sally Forth is used for damage build is, as you can see, there you pretty much lunge forward and knock people down. Also, this removes dazed effects. So for damage builds, Sally Forth is usually used. Now the most used skill is Mercy of Heaven, and it restores 2% of your health every 10 seconds. So while you're being a frontline tank, you have a high amount of health, you're also healing due to this skill. Now because of this skill, a lot of people like to run toughness sometimes. However, the general rule of Conqueror's Blade is just either run strength, armor, or agility. Toughness is usually never touched in terms of attributes. Mercy of Heaven, since it's a percent base of your health, it synergizes well with additional health runes, and if you crafted an equipment that increases your health, it'll also synergize well with it. So again, you're strictly focused on that full tank build. Shield Bash is an easy CC move since it kind of knocks people down and stuns people. And it also reduces enemy block and removes dazed effects. So that's why it is also used. Paladin is a slashing skill. However, again, you don't necessarily want to be running this compared to other skills. With Valor, the main attack skill and CC skill that you use, regardless if you're doing a tank build or a damage build, just because at the final hit you knock people down. So you are rewarded for landing your whole combo with Valor. So for a general build, I usually see people run Clash of Shields for an ultimate, Mercy of Heaven, with Valor, and Shield Bash. I hope you enjoyed and thanks for watching.